Hey guys, welcome back to the Backyard Vegetable Gardener Summit. I'm so excited to talk to you guys again. And in this next segment, I'm going to be talking with Anne Remo from Blooming Anomaly. Anne is an urban gardener that has a ton of experience growing flowers, which is a little bit of a twist in what we've been talking about throughout this whole summit. But I know how much you guys enjoy seeing a nice, pretty garden, just like I do. So flowers are the perfect companion to put into your vegetable garden. So without further ado, Anne, why don't you go ahead and give us a little bit of information about your background and what you do?
I'm an urban gardener based out of Huntington Beach, California, and Orange County in Southern California. A very busy and small garden. So I blog about gardening in small spaces on a budget at bloominganomaly.com. And several years ago, when I decided to get serious about gardening, I only had about an 80 square foot patio to work with, which is not very big. And let me show you. I know a bunch of you probably have huge gardens, which makes me very jealous. All right, but it was very tiny. I started from there. I just decided, hey, I'll work with what I've got. And with help from my husband, I was able to transform it into a little garden paradise with a ton of succulents, which are super popular here. Plumerias, mini roses, and anything else that I could fit in a container. And so he actually ended up building me a little shelf that I had all my succulents on, which I still have, even though our space is much bigger. But yeah, I just crammed all this into my little patio with a table, 4 chairs. That's about it. And then like I said, despite this lack of space, I was able to pack in plenty of plants. And our patio now, still in the patio, is about 3 times the size, which I think is huge, but I know everybody's is different. And because of these experiences, I decided to start a blog about urban gardening in small spaces while on a budget. And so I love blogging about helping other gardeners enjoying a garden with a variety of plants and learn to work with whatever space they have, even if it's huge or small, huge budget, small budget. And I just enjoy it. I enjoy gardening. I enjoy talking about gardening with flowers and just everything in between.
That sounds amazing. And interestingly enough, I for a couple of years when I was in college, I lived in an apartment and we had a patio. And I wasn't as good with flowers then as I am now. So but I wanted to do something, and I ended up turning my patio into like a tiny vegetable garden. So I think it's very important that people realize, even if you don't have a ton of space, like you can definitely make it work. Like you said, you had was an 80 square foot balcony that you transformed into an oasis.
Yeah, I measured it a few times. Like, this is small, so I think I threw that into a few blog posts. I'm like, hey, this is all I have. I've been able to do all this.
Yeah. So it's totally doable. It definitely is. So let's talk a little bit about specifics with growing flowers, because I know a lot of people that are familiar with growing vegetables, they kind of get hung up on some of the basic stuff. And one of the things that people may have issues with is, what type of soil would flowers do best in? Do they have different needs than vegetable plants, or can you use the same type of soil? Like, can you give us some more info about that?
Sure. My short answer is really whatever works for you and your space and area. Like I said, I do container gardening, so most of my flowers are in potting soil, which works with both vegetables, flowers, herbs, everything. I know flowers prefer well-draining soil with organics mixed in, with compost if you can. I know a lot of people like making their own soil, and I've heard both work well. Now, of course, like I said, I'm limited in space. I don't have a yard to go grab leaves, dirt, everything else. So I use bagged everything. Um, so I've used several kinds that have worked well. And one I used to go to was Miracle Grow potting soil, which I know is a synthetic. I've heard there's a debate on synthetics and organics, and that's what I started with. And it had some fertilizer that helps flowers bloom more. So that could be a difference. And right now, since I have a raised garden that I've planted both vegetables and flowers in, I've used a raised garden soil by Kellogg, I believe. And it works with both. And I think if you're starting out, or if you want to throw in some flowers, I'd say just use what you have and see how it works, especially if it's going to go in a raised garden. I mean, you might want to try out one specific for flowers, but from what I've heard and experienced, it's pretty similar. Like I said, it's best to use a mixture of compost, organic material like peat moss, leaves, aged bark, other natural products, a good mixture of clay, sand, and silt, which we do not have here in Southern California. I've heard through experience and gardening classes that we have the best weather to garden in the worst soil. Ours is very heavily clay-based, and I'm a few miles from the coast, so with that we have pretty moist mornings, which can cause issues and such. And so yeah, with that, just use what you have. Maybe throw in some fertilizer that'll help the flowers bloom a little bit. If you can, put in some organics with some of the soil, some, if it's natural, if it works great with what you have, use that. So yeah, and then just experiment. I'm always all for experimenting and, you know, talking to your local gardener if you can, see what they have to give, what advice they have.
Well, I think that is awesome. The fact that a lot of it, you know, will work for both is definitely encouraging. And I think it's important to note too that people that vegetable garden that are interested in planting flowers may not think about the fact that a lot of their vegetable plants bloom also, and so they need those same kind of nutrients, I would think, you know, to do really well. So I agree when you said you can probably do both, at least to get started, you know, as long as you have healthy soil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
that's very important.
another question is about watering. So I know with some vegetable plants, and I'm going to use tomatoes and as an example, they hate to be watered overhead. It leads to all kinds of like fungal issues if you're not careful, and they're just really picky. How does it work with flowers? Are they sensitive, or are they kind of, you can just water them however?
I would say they're sensitive. I wouldn't overwater them or overhead watering them. I actually accidentally did that with some flowers and they immediately started wilting the other day. They're fine now. And like I said, I don't even have a hose outside. I just use a watering can and just water around it. I try not to go over it, around it, inside the soil. For my raised garden bed, you can use a slow drip system. I use a 2-liter bottle. I'm all about saving money. So I built my own little system by washing out a 2-liter bottle, poked a few holes in the lid with a push pin, cut off the bottom, placed the lid first in soil, filled it with water, and then placed the cut bar on the bottom to keep the debris out the other day. And last year I did that with 2 of them. And I kind of did a combination of that with the watering can and a hose. I know, like I said, slope drip system works. Also, a timed system can work because I feel like you don't want to water them too much. You don't want to underwater them as well. That's, even to this day, that's still a fine balance for some of my plants. I can notice I am doing it too much, doing it too little bit, especially since it's getting warmer. So I would not recommend the overhead watering. I would definitely water
Stay away
around.
from that.
Yeah, and just watch what happens. Study your plants, learn from them, see what they like and dislike, just with anything else.
Okay, I got you. And I love your idea of making your own slow drip system with a 2-liter
Yeah.
Coke bottle. That's a good idea. I like that. I may have to
Yeah.
steal that.
Go for it.
So what are some common issues that somebody may run into if they're not familiar with growing flowers?
Like I just mentioned, overwatering, underwatering. And again, that also counts on where you live. If it's really hot and dry, if it's humid, I would say that's a major issue. Also, if you're not used to, growing flowers from seeds or growing flowers in general, as starting seeds too early or too late in the season. Like here, I can pretty much get away with all year round doing this, but I know other places you want to follow what's on the back of the package. So starting seeds too early or too late in a season, not enough or too much sun. That can also be an issue. I know most plants need 6 hours of sunlight. And this is something I'm still learning. We just moved into a new place, much larger patio, which I'm very happy about, but I'm still trying to figure out the patterns of the sun during the day. Like I said, I have a raised garden bed. It's right in the middle of the patio, so it gets pretty good light. And I have a few others that I might move, counting on if the seeds start growing or not. So sunlight's important. Even using the wrong soil. Most of the time, this isn't an issue, but let's say somebody has a bunch of succulents and want to use that soil, the succulent soil, for their flowers. Or do something which I used to do, which was start the flower seeds in just regular potting soil, thinking I didn't need seed starting soil. I did that a lot when I first started. I'm like, no, I don't need the seed starter. I want to save a few bucks. And of course, it didn't work. So little things like that I've learned along the way. Planting in the wrong area of the garden, maybe if somebody doesn't know their soil that well, if they're growing in ground, or maybe it's in too shady of an area, again, too sunny. Also, funguses, those can be a common issue. I know out here we have a lot of powdery mildew because of being by the coast. Black spot, gray mold, those are all common issues. Of course, pests. Out here, we get a lot of aphids. I know insects can be an issue. Rodents, we used to get squirrels a lot. And again, counting on where you live, some of these might be more of an issue than others, but most of those are issues I think gardeners run with, whether it's vegetables, flowers, anything.
Yeah. When you mentioned powdery mildew and squirrels, like I was thinking, yes, that's something that even here in West Tennessee, where it's extremely humid in the summertime, very hot, very humid, almost miserable. I'm kind of jealous that you live in a coastal area. At least you have like a breeze or something, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we don't have that. We don't get that. So, but yeah, we have some of the similar issues. So that's interesting. What would be some of the benefits of growing vegetables and flowers together?
There's all kinds of benefits with flowers. Everybody loves flowers. They add beauty to your garden, especially if the vegetables are still not at the flowering stage. So adding flowers adds some color and beauty to a raised garden bed or wherever you're going to plant them. Along with this is you can use those flowers maybe you want to bring some inside. So a lot of flowers that can be used in a vegetable garden are great for cut flowers for bouquets. So that can help you save money. And then something else that's important with vegetables is the right kind of flowers can attract pollinators, like bees and butterflies, hummingbirds, which are great to just watch out in wild anyways. And these can, again, help fertilize flowers in certain vegetables. The flowers can attract good bugs, like ladybugs or other bugs based on where you live and where you're gardening. And they can also keep bad ones away, like aphids and snails, whatever you have in your area. Certain bugs might enjoy feeding off flowers more than your vegetables. And then in that case, if you're attracting bad bugs but to your flowers, but you want to enjoy flowers, I always recommend planting those flowers in other areas so that you can enjoy them as well. And many flowers are edible, like nasturtiums. Those are very common companion plants and companion flower to vegetables, and you can enjoy those with vegetables. As well as managing the weeds in the area, there's some flowers that can be used as ground cover that can help with that issue as well.
That sounds wonderful because I am not good at weeding my vegetable garden. Like if weeds start to take it over, I'm not the best at keeping those away. So if I could keep the weeds away and make it pretty at the same time, like that checks 2 boxes off of my list.
Awesome.
So if somebody wanted to incorporate flowers into their vegetable garden, what are some of the ones that you recommend for beginners to start with?
I would say the first one that always pops in my head are sunflowers. Those go hand in hand with vegetables anyways. They're easy to grow. They come in all kinds of colors and sizes. Besides yellow, I've found dwarf ones that I used to grow in pots that I loved. And I even grew tall ones in the ground and in pots as well. And they're also great for their beauty, cut flowers. They attract pollinators, of course. And you can grow those from seeds, or you can buy small ones at a local garden center if you're not comfortable starting with seeds yet. Zinnias, those are my favorite cut for easy to grow. They come, again, in all kinds of colors. They're great with pollinating other plants. And they even have one that I really like called a cut and come again, where you just, the more you cut, the more they keep blooming. And I really enjoyed those last summer. And again, they can benefit your vegetables as well. Another one that's similar are cosmos. They come in different colors. They're similar to zinnias as well. They don't need much care. And they're easy to grow from seeds. And then another one that comes to mind are the nasturtiums. They're great ground cover. They have beautiful leaves. I'd say are as beautiful as their flowers. They're edible, and they can help your vegetables grow well. And I would say they're all easy to grow, all from seed.
Okay.
So those are the few that come to mind.
Zinnias last year for the first time.
Okay.
And I was really, really amazed. Literally, we got 2 packets of zinnias seeds, and they were the cut and come again kind, and we scattered the seeds like literally on the surface of the ground, and they immediately germinated, and they bloomed, gosh, until like October. I mean, like all summer long, we cut blooms off of them. They were just gorgeous. I loved them.
Yeah,
they were great.
And they're easy to grow. It's inexpensive. The seeds are really inexpensive, even if you get a small plant. I love them. They're great.
Yeah, they really were. Like, I think that'd be one of the ones that's like on the list of very hard to mess up. Like, we didn't water them or anything. Like, they just did their own thing, and we got tons of flowers all year long. They were awesome. So I'm gonna have to try some of the other ones that you mentioned because I have not. And so now I'm tempted. The zinnias did really well last year, so I'm gonna have to try those other ones out and see. Um,
I highly recommend that.
um, what are what is the best way to start growing flowers? Do you recommend from seeds or started plants? Is one better than the other one?
No, I mean, I started with small plants when I first started gardening, and I'm more and more, I'm getting more seeds. I even have this booklet of I tons of seeds that I just pick from, or I'll replace and buy more. I'd say both. Counts on what you're comfortable with. And some are easier to grow than others from seed, just like the ones I mentioned. Other ones that are easy to grow from seeds are the mixed ones, like the mixed pollinator seeds. Those are fun because you never know what you're going to get with those. And if you do choose to start with seeds, I recommend reading the back of the package to see what's the best way to start seeds. Some are, like you said, you can throw them on the ground, they'll do their own thing. Others are more picky and need to be started inside or in a greenhouse. I like starting mine in biodegradable egg crates. I'll just fill them with seed starting soil, water, keep them in the kitchen, and then when they start growing a few leaves, I might move them outside in the shade or in the sun, counting on how hot it is outside, and then transferring the seedlings to a larger space once everything grows.
Okay.
So either way, I would
Okay.
say.
Awesome. Awesome. And then you mentioned you have raised beds that you're growing stuff in. I know that's a really hot topic right now with vegetable gardeners. Like raised beds are all the rage. We just built our first raised beds actually this year.
Awesome.
Hopefully, hopefully it'll be easier for me to keep the weeds out of out of those. But
Yeah.
are there some flowers that are better suited to grow in raised beds? Do you have any recommendations?
Oh, let's see. Besides the ones I mentioned, marigolds, you can
Okay.
try those. Those come really pretty colors. Orange is gold. They don't grow too tall, so they can grow side by side with some vegetables. What else? Daisies.
I love
Again, they don't
daisies.
get too tall. You can try those. They're pretty. And they can attract certain bugs, detract other bugs, just like all the others. Um, you can try lavender.
Okay.
So that one, it's more of an herb than a flower, but it smells great, keeps pests away. It's got a lot of uses. You can dry the flowers, you can use the oil.
I love lavender.
Me too.
Hmm.
Alyssum, especially sweet alyssum, that makes a great ground cover. You can use it instead of mulch. It smells great. And it's another one of those that I tried for the first time from seed last year, and it grew and it spread everywhere.
Huh.
And it was really good. Let's see. Candelua, similar to daisies. Actually, they're related to daisies. They can attract aphids, keep those away from your vegetables, and keep other pests away. I would also say maybe look in your area to see what other people do. I've heard the poppies out here are great to add to raised gardens since they attract pollinators.
Okay.
And then, of course, the sunflowers, the zinnias, the cosmos, the nasturtiums. And then, just experiment with what grows well in your space and see what happens.
That sounds great. That's amazing advice. And it makes me, I always try to keep my vegetable garden kind of separate from my garden beds. And I have a ton of garden beds. I love my flowers. And last year was the first year that I tried to kind of incorporate flowers more into my vegetable garden bed, and you've really given me some good ideas. So I'm pretty excited
Okay,
to
awesome.
mesh those even more this year. Um, and the last question that I have for you is more for the attendees.
Okay.
Do you have anywhere or anything that they can kind of keep up with you with or keep in touch?
I do. So, like I said before, I have my own blog, and you can check out some great tips on gardening with flowers, vegetables, and other plants over at bloominganomaly.com. And like I said, I always have new posts as much as I can. Old posts you can check out. Like I said before, I do mainly flower gardening, but I have a little bit of other things that you can check out: urban vegetable gardening, raised gardens, starting seeds. I'm on every major social media platform: Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I'm everywhere.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I know you've given me so much good advice, and I think I'm gonna have to make my gardening budget just a little bit bigger so I can incorporate some of the good ideas that you had. But again, thank you so much, and it's been a total pleasure talking to you.
A pleasure talking to you as well. Thank you.